times have you had a brilliant idea or business proposal, but then second guessed yourself, or you simply talked yourself out of that very, very good idea because you felt that you weren't good enough, or you're not polished enough, or something? So if that's you, then this conversation for you is for you today. And we will talk about how you too can overcome that fear or your self doubt. Stay with us, don't go away. Almost 3 billion people and counting are consuming video content on their devices. Be Live Media helps brands position their products and services to people at a time and manner that's convenient to them. If you would like to reach your customers and clients and stay ahead of your competitors, then connect with us. If you're just joining us, then welcome to Books with Bridgetti. I am your host, Bridgetti Lynda from Cape Town in South Africa, and this live stream is made possible by StreamYard and Be Live Media. A special warm welcome to you, our viewers. If you're watching us on Amazon Live, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, a very warm welcome to you. It's an audience-centric show, so I am watching the comments. If you are brand new, if you've never watched the show before, type new in the comments and I will give you a shout out and I will say hello to you. My guest today is Shanna Lee Moore. She is a massage therapist, a hydration consultant, an educator, entrepreneur, writer, poet, and she's on a mission to empower others to embrace and create the lifestyle that they really want. She's also a contributing author to a collaboration book by Lynda Sunshine West called The Fearless Entrepreneurs, and her chapter in the book is entitled Faith Over Fear. So help me give a very warm welcome to Shana. Shanna, welcome to the show. So glad to have you join me today.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
And guess what? Guess who's in the audience? Guess who's in the audience?
I have no idea.
Your mom has joined us in the
Oh,
audience.
hi,
And
mommy.
yeah, she says hello.
Awesome.
Always nice to have familiar people in the audience watching you. So very warm welcome. Oh my goodness. So your chapter in the book. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Lynda Sunshine West. She's just an amazing human. She's an amazing connector. Her book really resonated with me. One of her books is called The Year of Fears, and she spent an entire year conquering one fear a day. Who of us cannot relate to that? We all have fears. Sometimes we talk about our fears, and sometimes it's an unspoken fear, which we're embarrassed to say, I'm scared of XYZ. And we simply don't do stuff because we're scared. And so often that fear is so unfounded. It's all those demons in our head, and we keep on talking ourselves out of doing things because of those demons in our head that really aren't real. What has been some of your demons that you've needed to conquer as an entrepreneur?
Really just stepping into myself. Have had several great mentors throughout my journey, and I think it's very valuable to have someone to look up to and admire to learn different skills when you're on a new path. But it's also just as equally important to really internalize how you want to show up in the world. So I needed to figure out who Shanna was and how I wanted to
Mm,
be, because I couldn't just simply mimic everybody around me, because I have my own personality and my own style, and I'm going to connect to people in a different way due to my past experiences. And so to really just embrace the uniqueness that we all have individually, while we're still encouraging ourselves to continue on that growth path and become better versions of ourselves.
isn't it weird how we always, I don't know where this messaging comes from, that we're not good enough. We're always not enough of something. Not a good enough mom, not a good enough wife, not a good enough friend. Somehow uh, we just don't have that confidence in ourselves. And it seems to be a common thread, and particularly amongst women. I don't know why.
Well, and we've become human doings instead of human beings. And something that I'm still working on is to really just take a deep breath and center into my heart and really be present in the moment, instead of worried about all of my to-do lists or my tasks for the day, and really just sometimes enjoy special moments. I was at a bonfire last night with my youngest daughter, and we were just blowing bubbles and hula hooping and enjoying the company of our new friends that were there and some old friends that were there. And I could have said, oh, well, I have all these emails I could answer, or all these clients I could call, or all of these things I should be doing instead. But to really just focus on that present moment and enjoy those little things, because so often people live their whole lives and they look back and they think there's going to be some big monumental event, and it was really just the compilation of all the little things added together that truly made up our best life.
Absolutely. Isn't it pretty much like, our moms used to take the teacups and the best plates and the best glass and put them in a cabinet and say, you don't touch those because they're for special moments. But the reality is that every single life, and I think that's one of the things that the pandemic has done for us, it's made us appreciate that every single day is special, that you need to take the time to really just live in the now, and appreciate the little things in life. And if you take the time to take a breath, you will have more energy to do what you need to do.
Yes, for sure.
You just really need to step back. Um, as a mom, uh, what has it been like for you to get into the entrepreneurial world, a space that has traditionally been reserved for our male counterparts? Um, what has that been like for you, and how have you felt? Have you felt any support? In your journey, was the support come from men, from women? What was that like for you?
I was a single mom when I started my entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's a big part of it, because I wanted to make sure I could provide for my daughter in a way that a traditional, maybe 9 to 5 job wouldn't offer us. My prior experience was more in customer service or maybe restaurant, and I didn't have a lot of skills. And so that was when I made the decision to go back to school and actually get my
Mm,
massage therapy degree and certification. And I was able to plan long term for when she would be in school certain hours of the day, that those would be my more traditional working hours, so that I would be able to really focus and have that quality time with her in the evenings. And part of that came from when my mom was a single mom. Since she's on here viewing, I want to give her all the credit she deserves for all the hard work she put in raising us. But a lot of her jobs were longer hours, and so that caused some of the absence. Even when she was still with my father, he would stay home with us more, and she would continue to work outside the home. So I always had a very strong female role model. And so I think that let me believe that it didn't matter if I had a male counterpart or that I was, a female, that I could really go out there and make things happen. And on this journey, I've been able to see other women entrepreneurs and people that are business owners, and love social media for being able to connect with people all over the world. There's plenty of great groups online to get inspiration from. And when we work more collaboratively and have the support for one another and really cheer each other on instead of maybe the younger teenage cattiness that people might have when they're still maturing in life and don't really understand that it's not about competition and there's no one out to take something away from you, that we all have different traits and a unique style, and we can all work together and really just provide the best service for whomever our clients or customers are.
Mm. I was going to ask you about, who's been your biggest supporter, and it's very obvious that your mom was played a very big role in your support system, because we all need someone, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. We just need one person. We need one person to have our back, one person who believes in us. We don't need 10 people. We don't need 20 people to believe in us. We just need that one person um, to say, you can do this. You've got this. And to be that, if we want that in other people, we need to be that for other people.
Absolutely.
Be that champion of someone else or for someone else. And it's amazing how when you shift the focus from yourself, you get back tenfold.
I love nothing more than being able to see other people's wins and being there as an encouragement for them, and maybe offering them a little bit of a different idea than they might have thought of before. I have a unique way of thinking. And so sometimes what might be the first idea that pops in my head might be something that someone else wouldn't have thought of on their own. And so I, I like sharing that perspective with people just to get them to think creatively.
And that's pretty much what Lynda Sunshine West has done. So here's a quick tip for people who are still struggling to get their first book out, and there are many. We may not have the tools or the skills to write an entire book. We may not have the time to write an entire book because it takes a lot of commitment, time, and effort to get a book published. And that's one of the things Lynda embraced, that she learned very early on, was if you can't write an entire book, do a collaboration book. And I think this is probably her, I don't know, fourth, fifth collaboration book that she's done. She's almost become sort of like an expert on doing collaboration books. In fact, she's an expert at connecting people with each other, you know, and it's great to be able to be part of such a community because you feel supported. Because sometimes the support doesn't always come from our family. We don't always have a mom or a sister or somebody in our close family circle who can be a support. But there are lots of initiatives like what Lynda is doing, for example, where you can get support, where people say, hey, I can do XYZ. What do you do? And this, I just coming back to what you said earlier, there's room for everybody. There's enough toys in the sandbox. I always like to use the analogy with people. People will say, well, oh, there's plenty live streamers, I'm going to waste my time. And I say, life doesn't work like that. Whatever it is that you do, you add your special personality, and that's what's going to attract your clientele. So whether the person next door you, opposite you, has got the same business, it really doesn't matter, because you add your unique personality, and people will be attracted by that. People travel long distances to get to someone who's going to cut their hair because they like that person and they like their particular style, even though they may have a stylist living next door.
And about our mindset too, because what we focus on will grow. And so if someone is always looking at the negative side or the competition or the lack, they're going to continue to manifest more of that. And once we can rewrite that paradigm and really make that shift and into abundance and prosperity, and know that the universe will conspire in our favor no matter what we ask for, whether you have spiritual, religious, or just universal, belief system. I believe, in God and the Most High and the higher power that I choose, but everybody has a different name for it. And it's really just energy. And that energy is never gone. It just can change form. And so to really get that focus, like if we were to use a magnifying glass to direct the sunbeams, we could start a huge fire. But to really just know how to focus our attention and our energy to really achieve what we want to instead of what we don't want to.
So your chapter in Lynda's book, and again, for those who may have missed the introduction, welcome. We're talking to Shanna. She's written a book, a chapter in the book called The Fearless Entrepreneurs by Lynda Sunshine West. So your chapter is called Faith Over Fear. What was the inspiration behind you wanting to write that chapter and sharing your journey?
So much like how Lynda got to address all of her years of fears, I have been progressing in my journey. And each time I get to grow into a better version of myself, I hit some resistance. And I just have chosen to embrace that. And instead of retreating, to really push through, because if we don't push past the resistance, then we'll never have that growth. And when we're in our comfort zone, in the safe little bubble, we don't feel any of these challenges and none of the friction comes up. And so whenever I have fear, I can choose to replace that in my mind and look at it as an excitement and be able to take the next step. And I do trust the process, and I have to trust in myself and know that if I continue to take action steps towards my goals, that I will be continued to be met with more opportunity. And that's exactly what's happened since I've chosen to get out of my depression. I fell into a little depression last year and I wasn't able to work on my businesses. I was home with my children, whom I love, but the domestic roles weren't really where I shine brightly. And so I felt some of that inadequacy come up. And like you said, like we feel like we're not good enough, or we're not doing something, or, I don't cook or clean well enough. And how am I going to teach my children something better? And so everything that I get to learn as an entrepreneur and on the growth and personal development, I can in turn teach to my children. And the sooner they get to learn it, the longer they'll get to benefit from the knowledge. This is not something that's traditionally taught in schools. And so it's really up to us as parents and a community, if we so choose to be a part of one, to really teach the next generation all of these mindset shifts and changes that they can really show up in the world how they like to. And I'll use my oldest daughter as an example for a moment, because she's now of an age where she can go get a little summer job, and she really didn't want to work with food. She is a pescatarian, and the idea of working with animals and meat was a very strong negative feeling for her. And so I didn't force her to just go take the first job that showed up, because I want her to truly be able to learn how to live in her integrity and her passion and her purpose. And so she was able to find a job in the local mall, and she's able to get herself there with public transportation until she saves for her car.
Nice.
Get some of that independence. And she is just crushing her sales goals. Every day she has a goal of certain sales, and she's either doubled or tripled, or one goal she had like 5 times for the day. And she's like, I went in the back room to help clean up the stock area so that it gives someone else a chance on the floor to meet their goals too. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Did they teach you to do that, or are you doing that, on your own? And she said, a little bit of both. We understand, it's good to share with so she's already got that community and that sharing and that lack of competitiveness.
Compassion.
So, yeah, I love watching my kids grow up.
Isn't that just a proud mom moment, when you kind of go, yes, you've got this, you
Yes.
know, and you've kind of done something right as a parent, and you think, wow. But doesn't it show also, just shining through that sometimes we don't think our children are watching us, but they are super, super observant, and we've got to be so careful while we are going through that phase of parenting and mentoring another human, because they're more likely to mimic not what we tell them, but what they see we do
Hmm.
um, in life. You can talk until the cows come home, but your kids are going to mimic what they see you do, not what you tell them to do. That's just the way it is. Uh,
She actually learned my phone number very early at a very early age because I used to make calls in the car and I would leave the message with my name and phone number for them to call me back. And one day she just spouted out the phone number and said thank you at the end. And I realized she had heard me leave the message and say thank you at the end. And that's how she memorized my phone number.
that is amazing. That is amazing. So I want to ask you, depression is a very real thing, and especially with the pandemic, it has become a roadblock for many. It is a roadblock for many. How did you propel yourself forward from that point? Because it's really hard for someone. Sometimes we don't even recognize that we are depressed or that we're not ourselves because it's insidious. Depression kind of creeps up on you gradually sometimes, and you don't even realize that you are depressed. And until you've actually had some kind of a treatment where you learn to read the signals so that you can pick up on those signals eventually. I'm of the opinion personally that depression never really goes away, but you learn the tools to work with it and work around it, to recognize it. What was sort of your aha moment where you um, were able to push through your depression and become a productive, fearless person again?
I connected with a gentleman in Texas and he introduced me to an app platform. And on that platform is a lot of great leadership, personal development, audios, and trainings. And I was able to start listening to those things again and really get some inspiration from everybody else's story and just get back into association with people that are on the same journey as me, to not focus on the problem or the depression or the sadness or the lack of what I couldn't do in the moment. I couldn't see my massage clients because we had to stay 6 feet away from people, or I couldn't pick up the phone because my kids were running around screaming in the sprinklers and wanted my attention. But to really just know right now in this present moment, I'm where I need to be, and trusting that it's for a reason, while I can work on myself and really grow my own skills, because we can only receive what we're ready for. And if I'm still in my past at a lower vibration or a lower level, I'm not ready to receive the abundance that's waiting for me. And so I get to keep strengthening myself on this journey. And then as I do that, the blessings can come.
Yeah, you do have to open yourself for those blessings. So sometimes we can kind of shut ourselves down. We become so depressed that everything seems bad, and life seldom is that way, is it? It's always our perception. And when we're feeling down and depressed, it just seems like nothing's going right, and we make everything in life a problem instead of seeing opportunities. So it's kind of just a shift in your thinking, and recognizing that not everything in life is bad, and that just this one element is a challenge, and I only have to deal with that one element. I don't have to deal with a whole life being bad, because it never is about life being bad. It's one simple thing, and it's often just being able to flip the switch and you're thinking on it, to just open yourself to new possibilities and turn that lemon tree into lemonade.
Exactly. And a real simple way to do that is simply to get in gratitude. So if someone wants to journal or do a gratitude list, it can be something very simple. It's good to write it in present tense. I am so happy and grateful now that, and just start writing. And you can put on some high frequency music in the background and just really elevate your state. And even if you only get one or two things, I'm thankful for lights and running water because there's people in the world that don't have that. Or I'm thankful for the food in my fridge or my children today. I'm thankful for the ability to change my mindset when I choose to. I'm thankful for all of the connections I get to meet and how I might be able to inspire or contribute in a positive way to someone else's life. I've always been a helper. I think that's part of the reason I went into massage therapy. I actually used to massage people before I had proper training for it. And it was one of my natural gifts that was given to me. And I've chosen to develop it and utilize it. And that's another quote. I'm not going to remember the person right now, but they said, God's gift to us is all of our abilities and talents, and our gift back to him is being able to develop and utilize as many of them as possible. And just to really learn what you're good at and not worry about what someone else is doing.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how that sometimes you just really need to um, change your mind? It's about changing your perception about something instead of seeing something as a problem. Because sometimes we can go through life and we turn everything into a problem. Instead of being able to separate our thoughts or change your environment. Sometimes we don't realize, you were saying earlier about, change the music. I remember growing up, I do have a hearing impediment. And I remember growing up, I used to often sometimes feel um, irritated and, just not feeling good, feeling good. And those days we used to listen to the radio because we didn't have all the technology we've got now, but it was often that because a song was playing on the radio that was just not a good vibe for me, and when I turned it off I could immediately feel the sense of relief and my mood changed. Or if I changed the music, changed another channel, it has an amazing impact and effect on you. So if a certain situation is not good for you, remove yourself from that situation. If you're finding your friends are a bad influence, remove yourself from that circle. Find new friends that are going to inspire you and are going to uplift you. um, you
Absolutely.
know do something different. If the company that you're working for is not uplifting you, is dragging you down, is robbing you from your joy of life, find another career path, find an environment where people are going to be more stimulating and encouraging, but do something, don't do nothing. um, and I don't know about you, but I feel oftentimes when we're stuck, we feel that we can't talk to someone about it because we're too embarrassed. But that is often where things change, when we learn to trust someone enough to talk, because they give us a new perspective and then the change can happen.
And I've noticed for me too, a lot of times when I'm speaking with someone, they're brought to me at a certain time where what I get to share with them is something that I also need to hear for myself, and just being able to hear it out loud. Sometimes it's, a different vibration than when it's just silently playing in your head. And I'm like, oh, that was good. I got some goosebumps when I shared that story, you know. So I love building community and meeting new people that are wanting to help and inspire and uplift one another. And I always just hope that whatever I share with people, that they feel that same.
And and with the pandemic now, I understand that it's become a little bit more difficult because, in some places it's opening up and other places it's closing up again, you know. But it's one of the things I've appreciated about doing what you and I are doing now is, because to me, this is like sitting across a coffee table with you. Um, And I see so many people on Zooms, for example, where people have got their cameras switched off, and I'm thinking, why do you do that? This is an opportunity to be together with people. Have you can look people in the eye, you can see people's expressions, you can don't switch off your camera. It's an opportunity to be with other people. Show them that you're excited about the topic for conversation. Ask people questions. Don't let up on that opportunity, because you may not be able to get together in person, but doing something like this is the next best thing. I mean, if it wasn't for this, you and I we wouldn't be having this conversation, right?
Right. It's amazing. And I was resistant to the technology a little bit too. And that's, part of stepping out of that depression and engaging and choosing to join more Zooms or have more conversations, and really rewrite my paradigm with electronics that I can do them. And sometimes they still get the better of me. But for the most part, I'm still continuing to get to grow through this process. And so I'm very thankful for this show and for the opportunity to meet and speak with you today.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that you said yes. And again, I want to give Lynda a shout out. Lynda Sunshine West. If you've just joined the show, we are talking about Lynda's upcoming book. Do you know offhand when that book is launching, Shanna?
We're hoping in the next month or so. There's actually a link active now for pre-order. So if they'd like to get
Right.
the book, they can certainly support us all. There's some great authors in this. I know some of them personally, some of them I've just met online, but I can't wait to read everybody else's chapter too.
I know. So it's the book is going to be available on Amazon. So keep your ears open. The book is called The Fearless Entrepreneurs, because it's there's a whole it's and I think it's all women, isn't it?
No,
If I'm
there's
no
some
no
men
no
in this
no no
one.
no 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 no. It's actually men and women. So it's a whole bunch of men and women who have written stories about their journeys. And I like it because it's a lot of them are first time authors as well, because this is how Lynda became an author, by taking part in collaborative books. And so you're not just hearing from one author or one story, there's a whole collection of people, and you will resonate with one of those stories. Because it's so many different people's stories, you are very, very likely to resonate with someone's stories. And I must say, I've watched a couple of the sort of pre-launch videos about the fearless entrepreneurs, and I just get goosebumps listening to people's stories. And I think, I relate to that. Yes. And that's what's nice about the collection of stories in Linda's collaboration books, is it's people that ordinary people. It's not people that have you know that are rocket scientists. It's not people that have gone to the moon. It's just normal everyday people who live with the kind of challenges that we live with, and they've written down their experiences of how they've stepped out of their difficulties, because sometimes we always feel like no one else can relate to my story, or no one else will understand why my life is so hard, or why it's so difficult for me to earn a living, why it's so difficult for me to be a mom or a dad. Um, you know, we have all those self doubt thoughts. But this collection of stories tells us that we can push through our fears. What was it for? Was there one particular thing, or was it like a series of things that helped you realize that you can actually get through your fears?
I write. I've written. My expression comes out in poetry most often when I have things to get off my chest or out of my head, and I've been doing that since elementary school. So my
Have you
dream
published
is,
any of your poetry?
there's actually a poem in my chapter to introduce you guys to.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And I got a surprise that another poem of mine I wrote last year is going to be coming out in another book. I don't have a release date for that yet, but that one was super special to me because during the Depression, I was procrastinating. And when I turned it in, the author of that book had said that I had missed the deadline. And so I was a little disappointed, but I didn't let that stop me. And that was part of the, momentum and journey to connect and go into this collaboration book with Lynda, so that I could still fulfill that dream of being a published author. And then I got an email a few weeks ago with a PDF of the new stories, and it was included. And so that was very heartwarming. I had happy tears, that was just very special, because I didn't give up and I continued to persist and keep taking that next step forward, that I was rewarded in my efforts. And I think that just being able to listen and associate and read better books and be inspired by people around me, that I really want to be able to continue to do that for others, and to let people know that no matter what their dreams might be, and however many people in their past might have not believed in them, that there's even more people out there that will be that support and an encouragement for them, and that anything is possible. And instead of saying why it can't happen, ask how it can. And when you ask better questions, you get better results and different answers. And sometimes when we say it's not possible, we just stop thinking about it. The brain is like, okay, it's not possible. There's no more reason to spend energy or time on that. But when you change it and say, how is that possible? Then you get to start brainstorming and thinking of creative ideas. When I was with my daughter, I had a job for someone else doing the massages. And so we did our budget off of the paycheck. But when we wanted to go somewhere extra on a trip or a vacation or a theme park, it was like, how many other massages privately can I do to create that income to do that? And just having those little shifts and not saying, no, we can't afford that. I never wanted to really tell my children that there was a lack, because I wanted them to believe in the abundance and have the shifts and be able to utilize those, and in turn teach them to the next generation and leave that better legacy.
That is amazing. Just teaching your own children that kind of entrepreneurial skill, to look at something differently, like, what else can I do to afford this, instead of saying I can't. I really like that. I think that's a great takeaway from this conversation, is to just shift our thinking um, into from negative into positive, because you're so right. The more we tell ourselves I can't do it, the more our brain is going to shut off, and we're going to close ourselves off to opportunities. I really believe that the mind is more powerful than anything else out there. There's a Bible verse that says, make your mind over. And I really believe in that verse. And I always say to people, just by way of an example, if somebody has decided to do something, like if someone's decided they're going to get divorced from their partner, once they've made that decision in their mind, nothing you can do or say after that is going to make a difference, because they've already made that decision. So be mindful of the messaging that you use. Be mindful of what you decide. Because if you decide to close yourself off to opportunities, that's exactly what's going to happen. If you decide that you can't climb that hill, guess what? Nothing you do is going to be successful, and that hill is going to seem like a mountain. But if you can shift your thinking and tell yourself, well, that ain't no mountain, that's just a hill, I'm going to climb it.
Well, and how many inspirational stories have we heard of people that may have had an opinion from a doctor or a diagnosis or something that they refused to accept, and they continued to believe that they would be healed, or that they would overcome, or they would have success, and they were able to achieve that simply from that desire that they held in their heart, and the belief that they could make it come true.
Absolutely. So Mateo has just joined us on Amazon Live, and Mateo is asking, what are we talking about? Mateo, the show is called Books with Bridgetti, and my guest is Shanna. We are talking about a brand new book that's going to be released by Lynda Sunshine West. and her book is called The Fearless Entrepreneurs. And Shanna has written a chapter in that book that I'm very excited about. Her chapter is called Faith Over Fear, and we've just been having a conversation about how we can become fearless, how we can step into our greatness simply by flipping that switch and changing our thinking. I sometimes say, we always talk about life throws you lemons and make lemonade, and with the pandemic and things sort of being doubly difficult for a lot of people, I started using the analogy and saying to people, sometimes life doesn't throw us lemons, it throws us the whole lemon tree and the roots. So then you just need to decide, well, I'm going to make, a whole tank of lemonade
And go sell it to the neighborhood.
and just sell it to the neighborhood. Absolutely spot on. It's just changing your perspective, changing the music, change the tone, change your job, change your friends, um, whatever it takes, but make the change. Just recognize sometimes we need change. If that music is not working for you, if that dance is not working for you, learn a different dance. We've got an incredible, we are, as humans, we've got a capacity to learn and to keep learning until the day we have our last breath. And so don't waste that brilliant opportunity that you're given, or the capacity that we have to learn different things. And I've been amazed, Shanna, I don't know about you, but since the pandemic, I have seen people make some amazing shifts completely out of their comfort zone. Companies that previously said you cannot do your job unless you are at the office with your bum on the seat where I can stand over your shoulder. It's not possible for you to do this job. But guess what? The pandemic told us we can. We can work from home. We can work around our children. We can have the best of both worlds. So, not everything about the pandemic has been doom and gloom. There's been a lot of good have come out of it. I personally have been very excited about the opportunities it's given mothers with children, fathers with children, people who live with chronic pain or disabilities, um, because now suddenly the doors have opened up to people that it was previously closed to. And, people have been able to pivot in amazing ways. And so not everything has been bad. And yes, some people are suffering from depression. And I want to acknowledge that because it is very real. A lot of people are struggling with that. But help is available. Embrace it. Speak up. Talk to people. Talk to a coworker, a friend. Talk to someone. But help is there, and you can make the switch if you just make that connection in your mind, and tell yourself you can do it. Any final words of encouragement that you want to share with us?
Oh, there's so many. No. Just if people want to or feel that they don't have someone maybe yet that they can talk to, I'm always happy to lend an ear and listen. So there's ways to connect with me online, send me a private message, something like that. And maybe I can offer, a little bit of a different perspective that will make a change and a difference in someone's life. Just to leave
What
the world a little better than I found it.
Shanna, there's something I read just a few days ago, and someone said, what if each of us just reached out to someone and said, how can I help? But genuinely mean it. Before we used to brush up against each other and say, hey, how are you doing? And before the person had even answered, we'd moved on to the next person. But genuinely just say to people, how can I help? We're all going through stuff right now, but we need that one person who says to us, how can I help?
And be
it's not
vulnerable
even
enough to
about,
tell the truth.
yes,
To really answer instead of just saying, oh, I'm fine, or I'm okay, how are you, as our kind of default answer. To really, if there is something that you need help with, know that the people who will help you and reach out are doing so with good intentions, and that they get just as much benefit as from giving as they do from receiving. And so not to deny them of that privilege of being able to make an impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes we do also close ourselves off. When people say, "How are you doing?" Don't always go to the default of saying, "I'm okay," especially when you're not okay. Um, you know, do say how you really, really feel and be open to hearing how other people can help you. And I think if one thing I have found is that with the pandemic, people generally are a little bit more empathetic. People have a little bit more time now than they had before. And if you speak up and you say, "I'm really struggling with this," 9 times out of 10, that person's going to say to you, "Me too." So just speak up and say, I'm struggling with XYZ. And it really is not even, it's not a weakness to say that you're struggling, because being able to recognize that you're struggling and being able to identify what it is you're struggling with, even better, because then you can isolate an area where you need help.
And
And
until we realize it or come into acceptance about what's happening, we can't get that help or change our thinking or have resources available. If we're in denial, then it like it doesn't exist. Our mind's still going to be shut down to it. So sometimes we need to use those as stepping stones to move forward into the next phase.
and that's a really good phrase, to have in your vocabulary, because sometimes we allow challenges to become roadblocks. But if we can switch our thinking and see challenges as stepping stones to something else, and just realize that in life, one door may close, but another door of opportunity may open. So don't close yourself off to that. If you used to be a pilot before, for example, the travel industry came to a dead halt. But if all you're going to be doing is looking for work as a pilot, then guess what? That is a roadblock. But if you're now opening yourself up to become an advisor to people on how to do things safely, because you've had plenty of safety training as a pilot, and still use that knowledge perhaps in just a slightly different manner or capacity. And I've seen people make that switch in amazing ways. You know, I'm going to have a lady on tomorrow, for example, who's been doing beauty in the beauty industry for many, many years. I think 15 years, and did phenomenal work. But she lost her husband earlier in the year, and one thing that she mentioned to me was that she didn't like having to do that any longer. She needed to make a shift in her life. And now she's opened up a distribution for spices,
Hmm.
completely different to what she had done before. But she realized she needed to make a shift and a change. And she's so excited about making the shift, and not just creating a shift for herself, but also the opportunities that will open up for other people, because she now wants to open a whole distribution chain. And I said to her, that is just amazing. Who would have thought? I mean, that's a radical shift um, in your career choice.
But like you
But
said,
it's
when it's no longer serving you, it's wise to know when to close a door on one thing and have it an end so that you can have a new beginning. It's like when you're a kid or you have kids and you watch them play on the monkey bars. Until they let go of that bar that's behind them, they're not able to swing forward and catch the next one. And if they do, they get stuck there, and that's when they lose all their momentum. And so really to just, trust in yourself and trust in all of the opportunities that are coming and be able to make those swings.
it's amazing. I another we really we've got to wrap up now. But I one of the other analogies I like to use also is that in life, in our relationships, it takes two people to play a game. You don't, you have to have two players. And when you playing tennis, for example, and you hit the ball, you've got to hit it in such a manner that the other person can hit it back. Because it's a game, you want to make sure that what you put out there um, can come back in a manner that serves you well. Um, so just go through life being mindful and being open to possibilities and opportunities. Shanna, thank you so much. It was great. It was great chatting to you. I think we could talk all day.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's been amazing. So I want to say thank you to your mom who's been with us all this time in the comments. Thank you for joining us, Beverly. And thank you to everyone else who's also joined us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Amazon. I want to give a shout out to Mateo, to Bahia, who's joined us. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. And have a great day further. Have a great afternoon further, evening. Whatever it is that you're doing, stay safe, stay well, take care of yourself. Until next time, Shanna, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. Bye for now.
You have a story that is unique, a story that needs to be heard, a story that people care about. So it can get them to stand up for what they believe in. It can inspire them to change. It can inspire them to take action. It can inspire them to care. Care enough to be the light to someone's darkness. Care enough to extend a helping hand to someone who's down and out. Care enough to call things the way they are and see them for what they could be. Your story can make a difference. Your story can save a life. Your story matters. One story changed the entire world. Your story could do the same. All you've got to do is own your story.